When do you know that this is you struck gold? There's going to be a series, there's going to be a video game. This, I mean, forever on all the great things that you're going to continue to do after this, there will always be Max Brallier, probably author of The Last Kids on Earth. When does that sink in that you've done it?
Um, it did. I don't know. I don't know if it did. I mean, or if I don't think it really has, and I don't. It sort of it doesn't feel like I can. I don't know. It's a tough question. I know what you mean. I think with the TV show, it always felt like it was like a cool conversation I was having. Um, that would be really fun to do, but it never really felt that realistic until suddenly it was real. And then that was like, oh wow, okay. And then that sort of that became very real very quickly. But it was like such a whirlwind. Like the first conversation I had with the producer about possibly doing it was like the day after my daughter was born, my first child, and my first only child. And so like that was like a very busy time, like just a crazy time. I think we moved 4 times in 4 years, something like that, or 5 years. So it was all just kind of like trying to catch my breath. And there was, maybe around book 6 or 7, I felt like, okay, like this is, people are buying a lot of copies of this book, and that's good. And that was really nice. But I really was, and I'm still always like mostly kind of consumed by like, I don't want the next one to suck. I don't want people to not like it. Like really, like which is silly. That I should be so worried about that. So I don't think I ever had like truly, except for when Mark Hamill voiced one of the characters in the show, and I was like, and I said, I remember like waking up my wife and being like, this, like, did I die? And this is like every occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. Like I felt like I had, like maybe I like had, that something happened and I was just living out this kind of imagined very fun version of what like I would have wanted my life to be when I was in 6th grade. It's like, oh, you're writing a Dawn of the Dead sort of thing but for kids. It's got a big quest to it, and then Luke Skywalker's gonna do one of the voices, and they're gonna fly to Los Angeles, and like it all felt really not believable, like to the point of like, this can't be real, like literally like at night, like, is this actually but I think it is, unless you live in a simulation, or everybody says all the time now. So I don't know when or if it ever really kind of felt like, oh, like this is now a big thing. But the first time I hit the New York Times bestseller list, that was really cool, because I knew that you only had to do it for 1 week, get one, and then forever. Whenever anything you write, top it would say New York Times bestselling author. So the same thing it says for Stephen King, it would say for me if I just hit it for 1 week on the children's list. And I remember really thinking about that, and like when my editor called to tell me that I think it was the second book hit for hit the New York Times bestseller list for a couple of weeks. The first one I ever did. I remember hanging up, being like, okay, so now I can say that forever. I just needed to do that once, and now I can say that forever. And that'll help the next book. Like that's sort of the way I was thinking about it.
I'm watching our time, and it's nearly gone. Esteemed audience knows I can't not ask. Max Brallier, have you ever seen a ghost and or a flying saucer?
No. Um, no. And I think, have you ever seen a ghost?
Not a ghost, no.
No. If I saw a ghost, if people tell me they've seen ghosts, I never really believe it, because if I saw a ghost, my brain would be so fried. My entire scope, my entire look at everything. If I suddenly knew that my relatives were walking around me, in a dead form, and that also there was an afterlife, and that maybe the way that I live now was going to cause me to live in limbo, or sort of stuck hanging around a house haunting it. The amount of time that I spent thinking about, like, I don't want the next last kids book to suck. The amount of time I would spend thinking about what I think an eternity would look like my brain would melt. I think if I ever saw a ghost, I think that's why I never sort of believe people who say they saw ghosts. I can see weird stuff, but if I ever, and also I would just be so scared, like in movies, whenever people react to ghosts, or people react to anything, they'll be like walking out, or they'll be like in the kitchen, they turn around, someone's like standing there, and they go like, and I would scream. It happens to me all the time. Like sometimes I'll come downstairs, or I'll be sitting downstairs at night, and my daughter will like wake up and come downstairs, and I'll like get up to go to the fridge, and I'll see her standing there, and I will scream at like bloody murder. Like I'm terrified. It's just some like, so if I saw a ghost, like if I saw some like messed up floating hot like face or something, it would be, I think I'd would die of a heart attack, or I would just I can't imagine that. And I've never seen a UFO. That's much more believable to me. And I always thought like there's definitely life out there, and then I started reading a little bit more about it, and then like I was reading about the Fermi paradox, or whatever. So maybe there's not. It's confusing. It would be very cool. Like that's one of the things that I spend a lot of time thinking about. Like, what would the world, like, what would that actually be like just to live through, like finding that out? And yeah, I think about that a lot. So no, I've never seen either. No, I've never seen either. If I can see one or the other, I would rather see a UFO than a ghost.
Fair enough. This has been an absolute privilege and a pleasure. I wish I had another hour with you. You've got more books coming. Come back. We'll do this again sometime, and we'll go through and break down the individual books. For tonight, my last question for you is, from the outside, you've got the video game, you've got the series, you've got the action figures. It looks like every author's dream has come true for you through a lot of hard work and determination, as well as luck. Is there a downside to having that much good come to you through a series?
It's
okay if there isn't.
no, I think I don't think that there's necessarily a downside, but I think what I would say is that just the way that I'm wired, I don't find myself particularly able to just sort of like, this is fun, I guess enjoy this, because I'm worried about, it's like climbing a mountain or something, and you might get a great view, but then if that great view causes you to slip, you fall off, and then it's over. And so I've always felt like, and stupidly so, that if sort of get distracted or kind of rest on my laurels, whatever, at the phrase, that then the next book's not any good, and one book's not as good as the previous ones, and sort of the word gets around, kids stop buying it, and then it all falls apart, and it's like a house of cards that sort of collapses. So I would say that there's, certainly not a downside, and the upsides are the ones that I think that are more maybe less expected. Like I've gotten to, because I've gotten to tour a lot for the books. I've gotten to go to we're just talking about guest you had on, Alison Gerber, is a friend of mine. I've gotten to go to a lot of author festivals, things like that, and really make a community of author friends that I didn't have before, which is like really, 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 really nice. So that's one thing that kind of came out of it that was like, oh, this is wonderful. This is just plain wonderful. Yeah, that's my answer.